Welcome back to Excel. Today's topic is sorting and filtering of data. Um, Outside of UW-Rock County, we have, by the engineering wing, there is a number of solar panels. I don't know if you've seen these before, but if you go out on the back side there, you will see a number of these solar panels. And these solar panels are collecting, of course, electricity, and we also collect data on this electricity, right? So there's all this data that we collect, and it goes into this file, and now we have this data and reams and hundreds of lines of data. How do we deal with this data, right? How do we, get anything useful out of it? We have in the past made graphs and things. That's been very useful for us. But sometimes there's data in there that we just kind of want to look at specifically, whether it's certain times or a certain amount of power that's being generated. How do we look at that? Well, we can treat this data like a set of data and kind of look at it and find ways to sort this. So engineers kind of store data in lists. And if we look at this, Excel this is the data from the solar panels, and it gives information on each column. It has year, month, day, and here's the time, and here's the incremental power generated. This null is essentially 0 kilowatt hours. So we could look at this data, and each one of these tells us something at this day and time, how much energy's been generated. Likewise, each row has this amount of data in it, right? But this data goes on and on and on for years, right? So how do we look at it? What we can do is we can look at it as a database, right? This is really like a database of information. And what we have in here is something called a heading. And the heading is this top row. It gives us in our case, year, month, day, time, incremental generation of energy. All right, so that's the heading of our database. Next, we have a row, right? Each row is given in here, and it is called a record. Okay, so one row, like the one we're showing here, row 10, this is a record of data. Each one of these is an individual record. All right. From this, the records also contain fields. Each field is a column, right? Each column in this data is a field. So this is a field for time. This is a field for the power generated. This is the day, month, year. Those are all fields in our record. Okay. So let's look at arranging data to analyze. What we can do is we can rearrange this data. Right? If I go back here, I can look at this and say, well, how do I know, how do I want to arrange it maybe differently, right? I could arrange it. Maybe I don't want to look at 2011. Maybe I want to look at 2018's year of data or something like that, or 2015 first, right? I can sort data, right? One thing I can do is sort my data. And typically I sort my data alphabetically or numerically, increasing or decreasing order, right? Another thing I can do is also filter my data. I can look for things that match certain criteria. So I could say I want, energy generated greater than 4 kilowatt hours, and the data can be then gone through and we can find what matches our data. We aren't going to be talking about pivot tables today. We'll skip that for right now. But all of this is really database operations. All of this data, sorting and filtering our database operations. You may know another program, or maybe you don't. It's called Microsoft Access, which is a database program. But we can use Excel also as a database program. Okay. What we're going to do is look at creating lists. So first we will create lists, and we can start in the upper left hand corner of our worksheet and expand down to the right. The first two rows can be used for headings, right? And then remember, each column should contain the same type of information. So this is always population data, right? We're only looking at population in there. We shouldn't have capital information in there or state information in there. Each row, again, is a record and should contain data related to each of those fields, right? So let's look at this example. And we have this example in Excel already, and I'll look at that in a minute, all right? We can take a look at that, and we're going to add in another additional column. We're going to add a column of data of population density. So let's start with that. I'll go over there. Here is our data table, and we're going to create a column for population density. And population density is the population divided by the square miles. So it's people, population per mile, right? And I'm going to put a line in the bottom here too. There we go. Leave that one on top. There we go. So there's our new column of data. Okay, let's go on. We can add this data. So I added a column of data. I just added it to the right, but I can also insert it in the middle, or I can add a row of data. And we've looked at adding rows and columns before, but let's just kind of review that real quickly. All right, here we are. I could have instead gone and inserted a row before square areas and miles and added some other data in there. Or I could add in another state or something like that. So let's do that real quickly. All right, so let's add in here Wisconsin. Our capital is Madison. The population, 255,000. 214. The square miles is 77. Okay. So this isn't really actually square miles, it's really acres that are on there. I'm going to have to change that, but this is 49,280 acres. Let's change that real quickly. Acres. Okay. So there we go. So there's the different population densities. I'm going to also make this a little nicer by bring it down to 2 decimal places. Okay, so there we have our new list of data. All right, so if we want to add data, we know how to do that, or columns in there, anything like that. So now we want to look at sorting data, right? We can click on a column to sort, and then we can select this ascending or descending tab from our ribbon, our data ribbon, right? And that'll do sort. Or we can click on this sort section here and this sort section here, and we will get this window to come up, and we can do sorting that way. One thing to be careful of is when you sort it, you may want to sort only part of a list or something. Be cautious and save your original data to another sheet first, just in case you screw things up, all right? Default sort is typically the entire list, but maybe you want to do partial list, okay? And if you do a part, they'll usually give you a warning also. All right, so now that we're here, let's make a copy of our list. So I click this upper left corner of this worksheet, and I'm going to click Control C, and you see these moving dashed lines going around, and I'm just going to click here and paste it. So there is my backup data. I'm going to go back to sheet 1 now. All right, and we talked about how we can sort this. And you'll see even from the Home tab, you have this sort and filter data here. Also from the data one, we should have the ascending and descending. So I'm going to reorder this. You see that it is, Wisconsin is out of order. I'm going to reorder it. Now it's putting Wisconsin in alphabetical order with its data. And you notice everything moved with it. You just have to be careful. Sometimes that won't happen. I could change the order to have Wisconsin first. I could sort it by capitals. However I want to sort this data, right? I'm just going to put it back this way. I could also do it by number. I could do it by density, right? I could sort my density, right? I'll go back here and do that. We can click this sort here, and we can pick different types of sorts, right? We can do, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but let's say I'm going to sort by density, and I'm going to sort by smallest to largest, and then I'm going to add another level of by population, smallest to largest, and say okay, and it's actually going to sort both of those. So if there's ties anywhere on anything, it will sort that out. So you'll see there isn't a tie, so the main priority is density. So if we see these two here, we can see the difference there, right? So let's unsort this. So I'm just doing a Control Z. So that's the sort function, or this being able to sort our data. And it does move everything around on here, right? If you look at this one more time, you'll see that Wisconsin is now in row 3, right? Or if I change it again, it's down in row 16. So it does move things around. Okay, now let's look at the other part, filtering. We're going to filter our data. Maybe I only want to look at specific criteria and eliminate the other ones, right? And I use this funnel, and this funnel is used to filter our data. There's also something called advanced, and you may want to look at that for some of your homework. Okay. So it will, what it does is it will filter our results, and records will be matched by a specific criteria. Other records are hidden. Remember that these are hidden. They are not deleted. So the data is still there. They're just hidden, and we'll take a look at how that works. What we can do is select our filter from the tab, and you'll see as soon as we do that, these little arrows show up, which allows us to select some filter criteria based on any one of those columns. So select the arrow and the criteria from the column. So I can select that arrow, and I am going to specify some number filter, right? And you will see once I do that, this little funnel shows up here, right? Now this arrow is still here, but this is what has been filtered based on that data there. Okay, so let's look at an example. Okay, we're back to our Excel spreadsheet, and now I want to filter. Let's filter on acres, right? Let's filter, and you'll see this filter comes up, and if I select this, for your homework, please do not select or use these. Use actual filters. So we can do a number filter, and we're going to say create a number filter, and let's say it's between some amount, right? It needs to be greater than 50,000 and less than 200,000. If I say OK, this list has come up. And if you look in here, you will see that the data is hidden, right? We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, And 11, 12, 13, 14 are all missing, and so is 16. So Madison has been filtered out, right? Maybe we want to clear that. So let's take that off. And we should be able to clear that, sorry. Clear filter, sorry. Let's do it by population density. I'm more concerned about filtering between based on population density. So here I am. Let's say our population density needs to be greater than 1 and I could do an or, less than I don't know, 30. So now it's come down to 2. Let's make this a little bit bigger for us. Let's edit that. I want to have more data in here. Let's take it as, all right, so there's hiding some. So there's that density range. Now what I want to do is maybe I want it for certain populations, right? And I'm going to pick a certain population, and I'm just going to say less than 100,000 is the size, the acres, right? Let's not do it on that. We don't want, I don't care about the acres. I want population itself. So let's do a population of less than 700,000. And there we have 2 cities with low population density, relatively low population density, and low population overall. So it can help us with that. Now this list, of course, is not very big. I can clear this. Clears all of them. This list isn't very large, but you could have lists that go on and on and on, and you want to sort by different amounts of, or different types of data. So like the solar data, we could sort by you know, days at 3 o'clock and power generation more than 10 kilowatt hours, and so on and so forth. So that's how this works. It's a relatively easy thing to do, this data filtering and sorting. Okay. So also just one quick thing too, remember we talked about tables. If I was here and I want to make a table, and it creates this table for me, right? And remember I have now my columns, right? It will do for me, so that's the way that works. Okay, if you want to make it look nice, that's through insert and then table. All right, if you have questions, please let me know, and I'd be glad to help you. Have a great day.